Subscribe to StoryLab for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. Chapter 1. The Ghost Before the Storm. Joshua Jordan had been dead to the world for 18 months, officially classified as missing in action in the Syrian desert. The military brass knew better. He was deep cover, eliminating high-value targets in Damascus while maintaining radio silence. His wife Stephanie Jordan and 8-year-old son Tyler believed the lie, grieving a husband and father who was very much alive, very much lethal, and very much coming home soon. Before his deployment, Joshua had been different. Not the hardened killer he'd become, but still unforgiving in his core. Growing up in rural Montana, he learned early that weakness invited predators. His father, a Vietnam veteran turned ranch hand, had beaten that lesson into him with leather belts and harsh winters. "Never let anyone think they can walk over you, boy," his father would say. "Forgiveness is for the weak, and the weak don't survive." Joshua had met Stephanie Myers at a military bar in Fort Bragg. She was a nurse, blonde and ambitious, with eyes that promised loyalty but held secrets even then. Their courtship was passionate but brief. She was pregnant within 6 months, married within 8. Tyler was born with his father's steel-gray eyes and his mother's capacity for deception, though Joshua wouldn't learn that last part for years. The marriage had its problems. Stephanie craved attention, luxury, and stability. 3 things a special forces sniper couldn't consistently provide. She'd grown up poor in trailer parks, bouncing between her alcoholic mother and various uncles who paid the bills in exchange for companionship. She'd sworn she'd never live that life again, but Joshua's deployments left her feeling abandoned and desperate. Their last night together before Syria, Stephanie had been distant, distracted. She'd avoided his touch, claimed she was tired. Joshua had noticed but filed it away. He had targets to eliminate, and personal problems were a luxury he couldn't afford in a war zone. Tyler was different. At 8, he was already showing signs of his father's intelligence and his mother's manipulation. He could lie convincingly when it suited him, but he genuinely loved his father. Joshua had taught him to shoot, to track, to observe. "Watch everything. Remember everything," Joshua would tell him during their hunting trips. "The details others miss are what keep you alive." As Joshua maintained his cover in Syria, eliminating targets with surgical precision, his family was disintegrating 3,000 miles away. Stephanie had started visiting the Copper Bell, a dive bar near the base, claiming she needed adult conversation. She'd begun an affair with Gerard Walsh, the police chief's younger brother and a detective with the county sheriff's department. Gerard was everything Joshua wasn't: present, available, and corrupt enough to provide the lifestyle Stephanie craved. He skimmed money from drug busts, accepted bribes from local dealers, and used his badge to intimidate anyone who crossed him. He was also violent when drunk, which was increasingly often. 6 months into Joshua's deployment, Stephanie filed for divorce, claiming abandonment. The military couldn't contact Joshua to contest it. His mission was too sensitive. By the time the papers were processed, Gerard had moved into Joshua's house, sleeping in his bed, disciplining his son. Tyler tried to resist at first. He was loyal to his father's memory, refusing to accept Gerard as a replacement. But Gerard's methods of discipline became increasingly brutal. What started as harsh words escalated to slaps, then to beatings with Joshua's own leather belt, the one his father had used on him. Stephanie justified it, even participated. She'd changed, hardened by Gerard's influence and her own guilt. When Tyler would cry for his father, she'd slap him. When he'd refuse to call Gerard Dad, Gerard would lock him in the basement for hours. The neighbors heard nothing. Gerard's badge ensured their silence. The transformation was systematic. Gerard isolated Tyler from his friends, his teachers, anyone who might report the abuse. He homeschooled him, using educational neglect as another form of control. Tyler learned to hide bruises, to lie about injuries, to disappear into himself when the violence started. Meanwhile, Joshua's mission was nearing completion. He'd eliminated 17 targets, disrupted 3 terror cells, and gathered intelligence that would save American lives. He'd also become something inhuman in the process, A ghost who could kill without hesitation, without remorse, without mercy. The Syrian desert had burned away whatever remained of his civilian conscience. His handler, David Bear, had worked with Joshua for 5 years. They'd served together in Afghanistan, Iraq, and now Syria. David had watched his friend transform from a soldier into something more dangerous, a weapon with a mind of its own. "You've got the look," David told him during their final debrief. "The one guys get when they've crossed a line they can't uncross." Joshua didn't care. He was focused on coming home, on seeing his son, on resuming the life he'd been fighting to protect. He had no idea that life no longer existed. The night before his extraction, Joshua made his last kill, a bomb maker who'd been targeting American convoys. He watched through his scope as the man's head exploded in a pink mist, felt the familiar satisfaction of a perfect shot. Tomorrow, he'd be on a transport plane home. Tomorrow, he'd discover what betrayal really meant. As he cleaned his rifle in the Syrian safe house, Joshua couldn't know that 3,000 miles away, his son was crying himself to sleep with 3 broken ribs and a fractured wrist, injuries Gerard had explained away as clumsiness to the emergency room doctor. He couldn't know that Stephanie was planning their wedding while his divorce papers dried. He couldn't know that Laura Fuentes, the trauma nurse who'd treated Tyler twice that month, was building the courage to make a phone call that would change everything. The storm was coming home, and it carried the fury of 18 months of betrayal. Chapter 2. The Call That Changed Everything. The satellite phone rang at 0347 hours Damascus time. Joshua Jordan was cleaning his rifle in the abandoned warehouse that served as his final safe house, preparing for extraction in 6 hours. The mission was complete, 17 targets eliminated, 0 American casualties, and intelligence gathered that would prevent 3 major attacks on U.S. soil. "Jordan," he answered, expecting his handler David Bear with final extraction details. Instead, a woman's voice, hushed and urgent. "Is this Joshua Jordan?" Tyler Jordan's father. Joshua's blood froze. Tyler, his son. No one outside military command should have this number. "Who is this?" "My name is Laura Fuentes. I'm a trauma nurse at Riverside County Medical Center. Your son, Tyler, he's in intensive care." The rifle slipped from Joshua's hands, clattering on the concrete floor. 18 months of controlled emotion, of surgical detachment, cracked like thin ice. "What happened?" Laura's voice wavered. "I've treated him 3 times in the past month. Broken ribs, fractured wrist, concussion. The stories don't match the injuries. Mr. Jordan, someone is hurting your boy. Where's his mother?" Joshua's voice was Arctic calm, the tone he used before killing. She remarried. To a man named Gerard Walsh. He's a detective, Mr. Jordan. The police chief's brother. I reported my suspicions to child services, but..." Laura paused, her voice breaking. "Nothing happened. The reports disappeared. And tonight was bad. Really bad." Joshua closed his eyes, seeing red behind his lids. "What happened tonight?" Tyler came in unconscious. 3 broken ribs, internal bleeding, cigarette burns on his arms. His stepfather claimed he fell down the stairs. "A 2-story fall, Mr. Jordan. The injuries are consistent with severe physical abuse." "And the police?" Detective Walsh handled the report personally. "No charges filed. Tyler's awake now, but he won't talk. He's terrified. When I mentioned calling his biological father, he begged me not to. Said Gerard would kill him if he found out." Joshua's hand found his sidearm, thumb running over the grip. "You still there, Mr. Jordan?" "I'm here." His voice was barely human now, filtered through 18 months of war and a lifetime of not forgiving. "What did you say the stepfather's name was?" "Gerard Walsh. He's Detective Gerard Walsh, badge number 247. His brother Charles Walsh is the police chief." "Mr. Jordan, I'm risking my job calling you, but that boy, he needs his father. The system has failed him completely." Joshua memorized every detail. Gerard Walsh, badge 247. Police Chief Charles Walsh. Stephanie Jordan, now Stephanie Walsh. A closed system of corruption protecting a child abuser. "Mr. Jordan, are you still deployed? Can you come home?" "I'm coming home." Joshua said quietly. Tell Tyler his father is coming home, and he won't have to be afraid much longer. What are you going to do? Whatever needs to be done. The line went dead. Joshua stared at the phone for 30 seconds, processing 18 months of betrayal. His wife, ex-wife, had abandoned him, divorced him while he served his country, married another man. That was forgivable, barely. But allowing that man to torture his son, that crossed a line written in blood. He speed-dialed David Hebert's secure line. Hey, Bear. Dave, I need immediate extraction. Family emergency. Josh, you're scheduled for 0900 extraction tomorrow. What? My son is in the hospital. Someone's been beating him. I need to be on the next transport out of here. David's tone shifted. He'd known Joshua for 5 years, served with him through hell. He'd never heard this sound in his friend's voice. Not anger, not rage, but something infinitely more dangerous. Jesus, Josh. How bad? Bad enough. Can you make it happen? There's a supply flight leaving in Sirlik in 4 hours. I can get you on it, but it goes to Andrews, not Bragg. You'll have to make your own way from D.C. Done. Joshua was already packing his gear. Rifle, sidearm, tactical knife, surveillance equipment, and a small fortune in untraceable cash from his Syrian operations. Dave, I need another favor. Name it. I need deep background on Gerard Walsh, detective, badge 247, Riverside County Sheriff's Department. And his brother Charles Walsh, police chief, same county. Financial records, case files, everything. Josh, what are you planning? Justice. That's not an answer. Joshua's voice dropped to a whisper. Dave, you know what I am. You know what I've become. Someone hurt my boy while I was protecting this country. They think because they wear badges, they're untouchable. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Josh, listen to me. Whatever you're thinking, think twice. You can't just. Can't what? Can't protect my son? Can't punish the people who tortured him? Dave, I've spent 18 months killing terrorists who threatened American children. Now I find out someone's been torturing my child in my own home. You think I'm going to file a complaint and hope for the best? David was quiet for a long moment. He knew Joshua Jordan, knew the man had no forgiveness in him, knew he'd crossed lines in Syria that had transformed him into something barely human. What do you need? Everything you can find on the Walsh brothers. Bank records, case files, personnel records, family connections. I want to know what they've done, who they've hurt, where they're vulnerable. Josh, if you go after cops, they're not cops. They're predators wearing badges. There's a difference. I'll send what I can find to your secure drop. Josh, be careful. Whatever you're planning, they won't see it coming, but the consequences. There are no consequences for dead men, Dave. Joshua hung up and finished packing. In 6 hours, he'd be on American soil. In 12 hours, he'd be at Tyler's bedside. In 24 hours, Gerard Walsh would discover that monsters exist, and one of them was coming home. As the Syrian sun rose over Damascus, Joshua Jordan made a promise to his absent son. The people who hurt you will pay in ways they can't imagine. They'll beg for death before I'm finished. And I never forgive. Never. The hunter was coming home, and he was bringing hell with him. Chapter 3. Reconnaissance and Rage. Riverside County Medical Center, 1847 hours. Joshua Jordan stood in the hallway outside the pediatric ICU, wearing civilian clothes that felt foreign after 18 months in tactical gear. He'd driven straight from Andrews Air Force Base, stopping only to purchase a rental car with cash and a fake ID, skills the military had taught him for foreign operations, now applied on American soil. Through the observation window, he saw his son for the first time in 18 months. Tyler looked smaller, thinner, older. Bandages covered most of his torso, and 4 dripped into his left arm. His right arm was in a cast. But it was Tyler's eyes that broke something in Joshua's chest. They held the hollow, distant look of a combat veteran, not an 8-year-old boy. Mr. Jordan? Joshua turned to find a Latino woman in scrubs. She was about 35, tired but determined. Laura Fuentes, she said, extending her hand. We spoke on the phone. Joshua shook her hand, noting the firm grip, the direct eye contact. How is he? Stable. The internal bleeding has stopped, but the psychological trauma. Laura shook her head. In 20 years of nursing, I've never seen a child so afraid. He won't sleep, won't eat. Every time a male doctor approaches, he panics. Where are they? His mother and stepfather. Gone. They left after the police interview. Said they'd be back tomorrow. Gerard Walsh made it clear that Tyler was clumsy, accident-prone. The attending physician, Dr. Morris Carroll, documented everything despite pressure from administration to keep it quiet. Joshua filed that information away. Dr. Carroll, an ally. Can I see him? Visiting hours ended an hour ago, but Laura glanced around, then nodded toward Tyler's room. He's been asking for his father. He doesn't know you're alive. Joshua entered the room quietly. Tyler was staring at the ceiling, tears sliding down his cheeks. When he saw Joshua, his eyes widened in disbelief. Dad, the word was barely a whisper. I'm here, son. Joshua moved to the bedside, careful not to touch Tyler without permission. He recognized trauma responses from his military experience. I came as soon as I could. They said you were dead. Mom said you were never coming back. I was on a mission. A long, dangerous mission. But I'm home now. Tyler's face crumpled. Dad, I try to be good. I try to do what Gerard said, but the boy's voice broke. You don't have to explain anything to me, Joshua said softly. None of this is your fault. None of it. He said if I told anyone about the things he did, he'd kill you when you came home. Then he'd kill me. He said no one would believe me because he's a cop. Joshua felt something cold and final settle in his chest. Tyler, look at me. The boy met his father's steel-gray eyes. Gerard Walsh will never hurt you again. I promise you that. Your father keeps his promises. But he's a cop, Dad. His brother is the police chief. They said they can do whatever they want. Son, I've spent the last 18 months hunting monsters. Real monsters who hurt innocent people and think they can't be stopped. Gerard Walsh is just another monster. And monsters. Joshua smiled, but it was a predator's smile. Monsters can be killed. Tyler's eyes widened. He saw something in his father that hadn't been there before. Something dangerous and final. Are you going to hurt him, Dad? I'm going to do what needs to be done. But first, I need you to get better. Can you do that for me? Tyler nodded, the first hope Joshua had seen in his eyes. Good. Now, I need you to tell me everything. Every time he hurt you, every threat he made, every person who was there. Can you do that? For the next hour, Tyler recounted 18 months of systematic abuse. Gerard's drinking, his rages, his punishments that escalated from slaps to beatings to torture. Stephanie's participation, her own violence when Tyler mentioned his father. The isolation, the threats, the times Gerard had forced Tyler to watch him burn photographs of Joshua. With each detail, Joshua's expression grew colder, more remote. He was cataloging everything, storing it away with military precision. This wasn't grief or anger anymore. This was operational planning. Dad, Tyler's voice was small. Are you okay? I'm perfect, son. Get some rest. I'll be here when you wake up. Promise? I promise. Joshua stayed until Tyler fell asleep, then met Laura Fuentes in the hallway. I need to ask you something, she said. That man who just talked to your son, that wasn't the same person who called me back, was it? Joshua studied her. What do you mean? On the phone, you sounded like a father. Desperate, worried. Just now, talking to Tyler, you sounded like a father too. But when you were listening to what happened to him. Laura paused. You sounded like something else entirely. I'm something else entirely, Joshua said quietly. I'm exactly what Gerard Walsh created. He wanted to hurt my son. He's about to discover what happens when you hurt a killer's child. Laura stepped back. Mr. Jordan, whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking that my son will never be afraid again. I'm thinking that justice isn't a courtroom where corrupt cops protect each other. I'm thinking that some problems require permanent solutions. You can't just. Yes, I can. Joshua's voice was arctic. Laura, you did the right thing calling me. You tried to work within the system, and the system failed my boy. Now it's my turn. He walked away, leaving Laura staring after him with growing dread. Outside the hospital, Joshua called David Hebert's secure line. Dave, what do you have? Josh, this is bad. Really bad. Gerard Walsh has been dirty for years, skimming drug money, taking bribes, covering up assaults for connected people. His brother Charles has been protecting him. They run that county like their personal kingdom. Financial records? Gerard's got 3 offshore accounts, totaling about $2 million. Charles has 2, about $1.5 million. They've been taking money from the Cordova cartel in exchange for protection. Joshua smiled grimly. Preston Cordova. He knew that name from Syrian intelligence briefings. The cartel operated in 12 countries, including Syria. They've been funding terror operations through arms sales. Dave, give me everything on the Cordova connection. Financial transfers, meeting locations, communication intercepts. Everything. Josh, what are you planning? The Walsh brothers think they're untouchable because they control local law enforcement. They're about to learn that their protection only extends to the county line. Beyond that, they're just criminals. And criminals can disappear. Josh, listen to me. Dave, my son spent 18 months being tortured while I was serving my country. The people responsible are going to pay. Not in a courtroom, not with suspension or demotion. They're going to pay with everything they have, everything they are, everything they love. And then they're going to pay with their lives. Josh, send me the files, Dave. That's an order. Joshua hung up and drove to a motel outside town, paying cash for a room under a false name. He spread maps of the county across the bed, marking the Walsh brothers' home addresses, the police station, the sheriff's department, known associates, hangouts, patterns of movement. This was what he'd been trained for, hunting human predators. The Syrian desert had taught him patience, precision, and the art of making people disappear without a trace. Gerard Walsh had made a fatal mistake. He'd assumed Joshua Jordan was just another absent father, another soldier who'd abandoned his family. He was about to learn that Joshua Jordan was a weapon, and that weapon had just acquired new targets. As midnight approached, Joshua began the first phase of his reconnaissance. By dawn, he knew everything about Gerard and Charles Walsh, their schedules, their weaknesses, their fears. And then the real hunt would begin. The predators had made Tyler afraid. Now it was their turn to know fear. Chapter 4, Building the Web. 3 days after arriving home, Joshua Jordan had transformed from concerned father to tactical operative. His motel room resembled a military command center. Satellite photos, financial records, surveillance equipment, and detailed dossiers on everyone connected to the Walsh brothers covered every surface. David A. Bear had delivered beyond expectations. The files revealed a network of corruption spanning 5 counties, with Gerard and Charles Walsh at the center. But it was the Cordova cartel connection that gave Joshua his opening. These weren't just corrupt cops. They were traitors selling protection to foreign criminals. Joshua's first recruit came from an unexpected source. Dr. Morris Carroll, the attending physician who documented Tyler's injuries despite administrative pressure, approached him during visiting hours. Mr. Jordan, I've been treating your son, and I need to tell you something. Morris was in his 50s, gray-haired and tired-looking, but his eyes held the same moral certainty Joshua recognized in combat medics who treated civilian casualties. I've been documenting suspicious injuries in children for 3 years, Morris continued. Always connected to families with law enforcement ties. Always explained away as accidents. Tyler isn't the first child Gerard Walsh has hurt. Joshua's expression didn't change, but Morris caught the predatory stillness that settled over him. How many children? 7 that I can prove. Probably more. I've been building a file, hoping eventually someone would listen. But internal affairs is run by Charles Walsh's college roommate. The DA's office won't touch it. The FBI says it's a local matter. Show me the files. That evening, in Morris's home office, Joshua reviewed 3 years of meticulous documentation. 7 children, ages 6 to 12, all showing signs of systematic abuse. All connected to Gerard Walsh through their parents. Drug dealers he protected, criminals he'd helped avoid prosecution, corrupt officials in his network. He uses the children as insurance, Morris explained. If their parents cooperate, he only hurts them a little. If they don't, he showed Joshua photos of a 10-year-old girl with cigarette burns spelling out words on her back. Joshua memorized every face, every injury, every detail. This wasn't just about Tyler anymore. It was about 7 other children whose pain demanded justice. Dr. Carroll, I need you to do something for me. Name it. I need detailed medical records for all 7 children, including Tyler. I need documentation that will stand up in court. And I need you to keep documenting everything. Morris nodded. What are you planning? Justice. The next recruit found Joshua. Laura Fuentes called his burner phone at 0200 hours. We need to meet. Now. They met at an all-night diner outside town. Laura looked haggard, frightened. Gerard Walsh came to the hospital tonight. He wanted Tyler's medical records. When I told him they were confidential, he showed me his badge and said confidentiality doesn't apply to police investigations. Did you give him the records? I stalled, said I needed administrator approval. But Mr. Jordan, he wasn't alone. He had 2 other men with him, Alberto Wilcox and Preston Cordova. Joshua's blood chilled. Preston Cordova himself. The cartel had escalated their involvement. They threatened me, Laura continued. Said if I caused problems for Gerard's family, I might have an accident. A fatal accident. Where are you staying tonight? My apartment, but... No. You're checking into the Riverside Motor Inn, room 237. Pay cash. Use the name Maria Santos. Don't go home. Don't go to work. Don't contact anyone until I tell you it's safe. Laura's eyes widened. Mr. Jordan, what's happening? You become a target because you try to help my son. That makes you my responsibility. Trust me, do what I say, and you'll be safe. How can you promise that? Joshua's smile was colder than winter. Because Gerard Walsh and his friends are about to become very busy with their own survival. The third recruit was more complicated. Brian Wilkins, a detective with the county sheriff's department, approached Joshua in the hospital parking lot. Mr. Jordan? I'm Detective Wilkins. I like to talk. Joshua's hand moved instinctively toward his concealed weapon, but Wilkins raised his hands. I'm not here as a cop. I'm here as someone who's been watching Gerard Walsh destroy this department for 5 years. I'm listening. Gerard's dirty, but he's protected. Charles makes sure any investigations disappear, any witnesses get intimidated. But there are still good cops in this department, and we've been waiting for an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? The kind that comes with outside resources and someone who isn't afraid of the Walsh brothers. Someone like a special forces operator with an axe to grind. Joshua studied Wilkins, reading posture, micro-expressions, stress indicators. The man was telling the truth. What do you want? I want to help you take them down. Legally, if possible. But if not, Wilkins shrugged. Sometimes the law isn't enough. Sometimes justice requires different methods. You have a family, detective? 2 daughters, 7 and 9. Every time I see what Gerard does to kids, I think about them. I think about what I'd do if someone hurt them. Joshua nodded slowly. Meet me tomorrow night. Warehouse District, 1247, Industrial Boulevard. Come alone, come armed, and come ready to cross lines you can't uncross. That night, Joshua finalized his operational plan. Phase 1, Intelligence and Recruitment, complete. Phase 2, Isolation and Psychological Warfare, beginning at dawn. Phase 3, Direct Action, pending target vulnerability. He called David Hebert's secure line. Dave, I need a shipment. Standard tactical package, plus specialized equipment. Josh, what kind of specialized equipment? Surveillance gear, communication intercepts, electronic warfare capabilities. And I need a clean vehicle, untraceable weapons, and a safe house. Jesus, Josh, you're setting up a full military operation. That's exactly what I'm setting up. The Walsh brothers have allied themselves with foreign criminals. That makes this a national security issue. That's a stretch, and you know it. Dave, I've confirmed that Gerard Walsh is providing protection for Preston Cordova's cartel operations. Cordova's people are the same ones who sold weapons to Syrian terrorists, weapons that killed American soldiers. This isn't just personal anymore. David was quiet for a long moment. I'll make some calls. Equipment will arrive tomorrow night. Good. And Dave? After this operation, Joshua Jordan is going to disappear for a while. Make sure my records reflect a psychological evaluation and extended leave. If anyone asks, I'm getting help for PTSD at a private facility. Josh, what are you really planning? I'm planning to make sure no one ever hurts my son again. I'm planning to make Gerard Walsh and everyone who protected him pay for 18 months of torture. and I'm planning to do it in a way that ensures they can never hurt another child. And if that requires crossing legal lines? Dave, they crossed every moral line when they tortured children. Legal lines are just words on paper. Dead men don't need lawyers. Joshua hung up and reviewed his target profiles one final time. Gerard Walsh, corrupt, violent, protected by his brother. Charles Walsh, enabler, conspirator, equally guilty. Preston Cordova, foreign criminal, terrorist financier, immediate threat. All three men had made the same mistake. They'd assumed their power made them untouchable. They were about to learn that power only works when your enemies play by the same rules. Joshua Jordan didn't play by anyone's rules except his own. And his only rule was simple. Anyone who hurt his son would die screaming. The trap was set. Tomorrow, the hunt would begin in earnest. Chapter 5, Psychological Warfare. Dawn broke over Riverside County as Joshua Jordan initiated Phase 2 of his operation. While Gerard Walsh slept off another drunk in the house that had once been Joshua's home, electronic surveillance equipment was being installed in locations throughout the county. David Hebert's shipment had arrived at 0300 hours. Military-grade communications intercepts, GPS tracking devices, night vision equipment, and weapons that didn't officially exist. More importantly, it included detailed intelligence files on Preston Cordova's cartel operations, including planned shipments and meeting locations. Joshua's first target wasn't Gerard Walsh directly. It was his sense of security. At 0630 hours, Gerard's police radio crackled to life with an encrypted message. Package delivery confirmed. Cleanup required at usual location. Subject eliminated per instructions. Gerard bolted upright in bed, instantly sober. The message format matched cartel communications, but this wasn't a scheduled operation. He tried calling his handler, Alberto Wilcox, but the call went straight to voicemail. Meanwhile, across town, Charles Walsh received a text from an unknown number. Internal Affairs requesting meeting. Evidence of irregularities in Detective G. Walsh's cases. Confidential inquiry initiated. Neither brother knew that Joshua was monitoring all their communications, manipulating their paranoia, making them question everything. By 0800 hours, both Walsh brothers were panicking. They met at their usual spot, abandoned warehouse Gerard used for meetings with cartel representatives. What they didn't know was that Joshua had been watching this location for 3 days, cataloging every visitor, every pattern. Someone's feeding information to Internal Affairs, Charles said, lighting his third cigarette in 20 minutes. Or the cartel's cleaning house, Gerard replied, checking his service weapon for the 5th time. Alberto's not answering calls. Neither is Preston. Maybe they're dead. Maybe we're next. Joshua watched from a rooftop 300 meters away, listening through surveillance equipment David had provided. The Walsh brothers were exactly where he wanted them. Paranoid, isolated, turning on each other. But the real psychological warfare began at noon. Gerard received a package at the police station with no return address. Inside was a photograph of Tyler in the hospital, along with detailed medical records documenting every injury Gerard had inflicted. Written across the bottom in red ink, "The father knows. The father is coming." Gerard's hands shook as he stared at the photo. According to military records, Joshua Jordan was missing in action, presumed dead. But someone knew about Tyler, knew about the abuse, knew enough to threaten him. Across town, Charles Walsh found a similar package in his office. But it contained something different. Financial records showing every payment from the Cordova cartel, every offshore account, every transaction that proved his corruption. The message was different too. Your protection is gone. Your time is limited. By afternoon, both brothers were acting erratically. Gerard called in sick. Charles canceled all meetings. They were making mistakes, leaving themselves vulnerable. At 1400 hours, Joshua initiated the next phase. Using equipment David had provided, he intercepted Gerard's cell phone and sent a text to Stephanie. "Need to talk. Meet me at the Copper Bell at 8 p.m. Come alone. Don't tell Charles." Then he intercepted Charles's phone and sent a message to Gerard. Meeting compromised. They know about Tyler. Cleanup required tonight. The brothers were now suspicious of each other, each believing the other might be planning betrayal. But Joshua's masterstroke came at 1,600 hours. Using cartel communication protocols he'd learned in Syria, he sent a message to both Walsh brothers from Preston Cordova's encrypted line. Operation compromised. Eliminate all witnesses. Begin with the child. Gerard's face went white when he read the message. If the cartel wanted Tyler dead, it meant someone had talked. It meant their protection was gone. It meant they were all targets now. Charles received the same message and immediately called his brother. Gerard, we need to meet. Now. Where? The warehouse. And Gerard? Bring your gun. Joshua smiled as he monitored the call. The brothers were now actively planning each other's elimination, each believing the other was a security risk. At 1,700 hours, Detective Brian Wilkins called Joshua's burner phone. It's working, Wilkins reported. Both Walsh brothers requested immediate backup from patrol units. Gerard's barricaded in his house with Stephanie and Tyler. Charles has locked down the police station. They're paranoid as hell. What about Cordova? That's the beautiful part. He's panicking too. My sources say he's planning to eliminate the Walsh brothers himself, thinking they've been compromised. He's moving product and people out of the county. Perfect. How long before they make their move? Gerard's planning something tonight. Charles is coordinating with 3 other corrupt cops. They're planning to eliminate Gerard and frame it as a cartel hit. Joshua checked his weapons and equipment. Brian, I need you and your people clear of the blast radius. What's about to happen isn't going to be clean. Understood. Josh, there's something else. Tyler asked for you at the hospital. He's scared. Says Gerard came by this morning. Told him his father was never coming home. Joshua's expression hardened. Gerard Walsh is right about one thing. After tonight, Tyler's father isn't coming home. The man who comes home is going to be something else entirely. At sunset, Joshua moved to his final observation post, a water tower overlooking Gerard's house. Through his scope, he could see Gerard drinking heavily, pacing, occasionally screaming at Stephanie. Tyler was locked in his room, exactly where Joshua needed him to be. Charles Walsh and 3 corrupt officers were positioned around the house, waiting for the signal to move in. They planned to kill Gerard, eliminate Stephanie as a witness, and stage it as a cartel execution. Tyler would be collateral damage. Preston Cordova's people were approaching from the south, 6 armed men with orders to kill everyone in the house and burn it down. All the pieces were in position. All the predators were hunting each other, none of them realizing they were being hunted by something far more dangerous. Joshua checked his rifle one final time. In 30 minutes, the psychological warfare would end and the killing would begin. Gerard Walsh had tortured his son for 18 months. Tonight, Joshua would show him what 18 months of war had taught him about inflicting pain. Chapter 6. The Trap Springs. 2,100 hours. The moon was dark over Riverside County as 3 separate groups of killers converged on the house where Tyler Jordan was being held prisoner. None of them knew they were walking into a carefully orchestrated execution. Joshua Jordan watched through his rifle scope from the water tower, radio crackling with intercepted communications from all 3 factions. Charles Walsh and his corrupt officers were moving into position around the house. Preston Cordova's cartel soldiers approached from the industrial district, and inside the house, Gerard Walsh was drinking himself into a rage, alternately screaming at Stephanie and checking his weapons. All units, prepare to breach. Charles Walsh's voice crackled over police radio. He was leading 4 corrupt officers, Craig Walker, Wade Scott, Kurt Kahn, and Edwin Cherry, all of whom had been protecting Gerard's operation for years. From the south, Alberto Wilcox's voice came through cartel frequencies. El Jeef wants everyone eliminated. No witnesses, no survivors. Make it look like police corruption gone wrong. Inside the house, Gerard was spiraling. The mysterious messages had pushed him past paranoia into pure terror. He'd barricaded the doors, armed himself with 2 pistols and a shotgun, and forced Stephanie to help him prepare for a siege. They're coming for us, Gerard told Stephanie, who was crying quietly on the couch. The cartel, your husband, maybe both. We should have killed the kid months ago. Please, Gerard, just let Tyler go, Stephanie begged. He's just a child. That child is evidence. Evidence gets people killed. Gerard chambered a round in his shotgun. Should have finished him when I had the chance. Joshua's finger tightened on the trigger, but he waited. Not yet. Let them get closer. At 2,115 hours, Charles Walsh gave the signal. His team moved toward the front and back doors while Cordova's people approached the east and west sides. In 90 seconds, both groups would breach simultaneously, each expecting to eliminate the other after killing Gerard and his family. That's when Joshua began killing. His first shot took Edwin Cherry through the head at 200 meters, a perfect kill shot that dropped the corrupt cop silently. The second shot eliminated Wade Scott before he could reach the back door. Craig Walker had time to look confused before Joshua's third shot removed most of his skull. Charles Walsh realized something was wrong when his radio chatter stopped, but he was committed to the breach. Kurt, report. Edwin, respond. Silence. Meanwhile, Cordova's soldiers reached the east side of the house, unaware that half the police team was already dead. Alberto Wilcox placed charges on the window, while two other sicarios prepared to breach the front door. Joshua's fourth shot punched through Alberto's chest, spinning him away from the explosive charge. His fifth and sixth shots eliminated the other two cartel soldiers before they could react. The remaining three cartel members scattered, confused, and terrified. Inside the house, Gerard heard the gunshots and assumed the war had started. He grabbed Tyler from his room, pressing the shotgun to the boy's head. Stephanie, get over here now. Gerard, please. They're here. They're coming for us. Charles Walsh breached the front door with Kurt Kahn, both expecting to find Gerard drunk and vulnerable. Instead, they found a madman holding a child hostage with 6 dead bodies outside, and an unknown sniper eliminating everyone who moved. Charles, Gerard's voice was high with panic. Charlie, is that you? Yeah, Gerard, it's me. What the hell is happening out there? Someone's killing everyone. Police, cartel, everyone. Joshua's radio intercepted their conversation, and he smiled grimly. Time for the final phase. Using Gerard's own cell phone number, which he'd cloned hours earlier, Joshua called the house phone. Gerard answered on the first ring. Who is this? Hello, Gerard. Joshua's voice was calm, conversational. This is Tyler's father. Gerard's blood turned to ice. That's impossible. You're dead. No, Gerard. But you are. You just don't know it yet. Through his scope, Joshua could see Gerard frantically looking around the house, still holding Tyler. I've been watching you for days, Joshua continued. Learning your patterns, your weaknesses, your fears. I know about the children you've hurt. I know about the money you've stolen. I know about every evil thing you've done. You're lying. You're dead. The military said. The military said what I needed them to say. Gerard, look outside. Count the bodies. That's what 18 months of war taught me. That's what happens to people who hurt children. Gerard peered through the curtains and saw the carnage in his yard. Police and cartel soldiers scattered like broken dolls. What do you want? Gerard's voice cracked. I want you to let my son go. I want you to walk outside with your hands up. I want you to face justice for what you've done. And if I don't, then I kill everyone in that house, except Tyler, and make you watch before I kill you slowly. Charles Walsh grabbed the phone from Gerard. This is Police Chief Charles Walsh. I don't know who you are, but I know exactly who you are, Charles. Badge number 089. Graduate of Central State University. Married to Colleen Stewart, 2 children, Brendan and Theodore. You've been protecting your brother's crimes for 5 years. Charles felt his world tilt. This voice knew everything. Your corruption enabled the torture of 8 children, including my son. Your protection allowed Gerard to burn Tyler with cigarettes, break his ribs, terrorize him for 18 months. You're equally guilty. Listen, we can work this out. No, Charles, we can't. You had 18 months to work it out. You had dozens of opportunities to stop Gerard, to protect those children, to do the right thing. You chose corruption and complicity. Now you face consequences. Joshua's next shot took out the porch light, plunging the front of the house into darkness. His eighth shot shattered the living room window. His ninth shot sent Kurt Kahn diving for cover. "You have 60 seconds to release Tyler and surrender," Joshua announced over Gerard's phone. "After that, I start killing everyone in that house one by one." Gerard was hyperventilating now, shotgun still pressed to Tyler's head. "He'll kill us all. Charlie, he'll kill us all." Charles was thinking fast, trying to find an exit strategy. "Maybe we can use the kid as leverage." "No," Tyler said quietly. Both men looked at the 8-year-old boy who'd been silent throughout the siege. "I said no," Tyler repeated, his voice stronger. "My dad's home now, and he never loses." Gerard pressed the shotgun harder against Tyler's head. "Shut up, kid, or I'll—" Tyler smiled, the same predator's smile his father wore. "Gerard, you hurt me for 18 months. You made me afraid, made me cry, made me wish I was dead. But you know what? What? My dad's been killing people like you for 18 months, and he's really, really good at it." That's when Tyler bit down hard on Gerard's wrist, twisted away from the shotgun, and dove behind the couch, exactly as his father had taught him during their hunting trips. "Watch everything, remember everything," Tyler whispered, repeating his father's words. "The details others miss are what keep you alive." Gerard screamed in pain and rage, spinning the shotgun toward Tyler's hiding place. He never got the chance to fire. Joshua's 10th shot came through the living room window at 2,847 feet per second, striking Gerard Walsh in the right shoulder and spinning him away from Tyler. His 11th shot took Charles Walsh in the leg, dropping the police chief to his knees. Kurt Kahn tried to run. Joshua's 12th shot caught him in the back, ending his escape attempt permanently. Silence fell over the house, except for Gerard's screaming and Charles's whimpering. "Tyler!" Joshua's voice came over the phone, calm and reassuring. "Are you hurt?" "No, Dad. I'm okay. Good boy. Stay down behind the couch. This will be over soon." Joshua descended from the water tower with predatory efficiency, moving through the shadows toward the house where his son waited and his enemies bled. The psychological warfare was over. The trap had sprung perfectly. Now came the part Joshua had been waiting for, the reckoning. Chapter 7. Face to Face with Monsters. Joshua Jordan entered his former home like death itself, rifle at ready position, night vision revealing every corner where threats might hide. The silence was broken only by Gerard Walsh's labored breathing and Charles Walsh's quiet sobbing. Tyler peeked over the couch when he heard his father's footsteps. "Dad, I'm here, son. Are you hurt?" "No, sir." "Good. Go upstairs to your room and close the door. Don't come out until I tell you." Tyler looked at Gerard Walsh, who was clutching his wounded shoulder and staring at Joshua with terror-filled eyes. Then he looked at his father, the man who'd been gone for 18 months, who'd returned as something harder and more dangerous than when he'd left. "Dad, are you going to kill them?" Joshua met his son's eyes. "Tyler, some people do things so evil that they forfeit their right to exist. These men tortured you. They hurt other children. They protected each other while innocent people suffered. So you're going to kill them?" "I'm going to make sure they can never hurt anyone again. Ever." Tyler nodded solemnly, then walked upstairs without looking back. His father had taught him about justice on their hunting trips. Sometimes predators had to be eliminated to protect the innocent. When Tyler's door closed, Joshua turned his attention to the 2 wounded men in his living room. Gerard Walsh was pressed against the far wall, trying to stop the bleeding from his shoulder. Charles Walsh sat on the floor, pants leg soaked with blood, hands raised in surrender. Stephanie Jordan, now Stephanie Walsh, stood frozen by the kitchen doorway, mascara streaked down her face. "Hello, Stephanie," Joshua said quietly. "It's been a while." "Josh, You what? You're sorry? You didn't know Gerard was torturing my son? You were protecting Tyler." Stephanie opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. "I monitored your phone calls for 3 days," Joshua continued. "I heard you laughing with your friends about your clumsy stepson. I heard you planning to have Tyler committed to a psychiatric facility so Gerard could abuse him without witnesses. I heard you tell Gerard that killing Tyler might be the cleanest solution. That's exactly what you said. Tuesday night, 11:47 p.m., called duration 14 minutes. Joshua's voice was arctic. You didn't just allow my son to be tortured. You participated. You enabled. You planned to escalate. Gerard struggled to his feet, using the wall for support. Look, Jordan, we can make a deal. Gerard Walsh. Joshua's attention shifted to the man who'd spent 18 months breaking his son. Detective Gerard Walsh, badge number 247. Brother to Police Chief Charles Walsh. Collector of bribes, protector of criminals, and torturer of children. You burned Tyler with cigarettes. You broke his ribs. You locked him in basements. You made him watch while you destroyed photographs of me. You told him I was dead, that I was never coming home, that no one would ever protect him. Gerard's face went pale. How do you know? I know everything, Gerard. I know about the 7 other children you abused. I know about the cartel money. I know about every crime you've committed. But most importantly, I know about what you did to my son. Joshua moved closer, rifle trained on Gerard's chest. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit in that chair. You're going to confess everything you've done. And then you're going to face judgment. You can't just execute us. Charles Walsh screamed from the floor. This is America. We have rights. Rights. Joshua's laugh was colder than winter. What rights did Tyler have when Gerard was burning him with cigarettes? What rights did those other children have when you covered up their abuse? He produced a small recording device from his tactical vest. But you're right about one thing, Charles. This is America, so you're going to get a trial. Right here, right now. I'm the judge, jury, and executioner. Gerard goes first. Joshua pulled up a chair and sat facing Gerard, rifle resting across his knees. Gerard Walsh, you stand accused of aggravated child abuse, conspiracy, corruption, and 18 months of systematic torture inflicted on Tyler Jordan. How do you plead? This is insane. You can't. Guilty, plea noted. Let's discuss sentencing. Wait. Gerard's voice cracked. I plead not guilty. I want a lawyer. You had 18 months to get a lawyer, Gerard. You chose to hurt my son instead. But I'll give you something the system never gave Tyler. A chance to explain yourself. Gerard looked around desperately, then back at Joshua's emotionless face. Look, kids lie. Tyler's disturbed. He makes things up. Joshua's rifle came up, muzzle inches from Gerard's forehead. Wrong answer. Wait. Okay, maybe I was too hard on him sometimes, but he needed discipline. You broke his ribs, Gerard. That was an accident. You burned him with cigarettes. He was disobedient. You terrorized him for 18 months. I was trying to make him tough. Joshua stood up, rifle still trained on Gerard's head. Gerard Walsh, you've confessed to aggravated child abuse. You've shown no remorse, no understanding of the harm you've caused, no capacity for redemption. In a normal courtroom, you'd get 15 to 20 years and be out in 8. That's right. I do my time. But this isn't a normal courtroom. This is justice for what you did to my son. And my son will never get those 18 months back. He'll never unsee the things you showed him, unfeel the pain you caused him, unlive the terror you put him through. Joshua chambered around. So you don't get to serve time and walk away. You don't get to rehabilitate. You don't get parole or appeals or second chances. Please, Gerard whispered. I have a life. I have. You have nothing. Because monsters don't get to live while their victims suffer. But before Joshua could fire, Stephanie spoke up. Josh, wait. He turned to look at his ex-wife, who was now standing straighter, her fear replaced by something calculating. I can give you something better than just killing them, she said. I can give you revenge that lasts. Joshua studied her, reading micro-expressions and body language. I'm listening. Gerard's been recording his sessions with Tyler. Video recordings. He sells them to other pedophiles online. There are dozens of files, Josh. Dozens of videos of what he did to your son. The room went dead silent, except for Gerard's panicked breathing. Where are they? Joshua's voice was barely human now. His computer. Password protected, encrypted. But I know where he keeps the password. Joshua looked at Gerard, whose face had gone chalk white. Is that true, Gerard? I never. Is that true? Gerard's silence was answer enough. Joshua set down his rifle and pulled out his tactical knife instead. Gerard, I was going to give you a quick death. A bullet to the head, over in seconds. But if you've been selling videos of my son's torture... He smiled, and Gerard began to cry. Well, that changes things considerably. Chapter 8. The Price of Justice. The basement of Joshua's former home became an interrogation room. Gerard Walsh sat zip-tied to a wooden chair, blood still seeping from his shoulder wound. Charles Walsh was secured to a support beam, his leg wound wrapped to prevent him from bleeding out too quickly. Stephanie sat in the corner, unrestrained but knowing that running would only delay the inevitable. Joshua had retrieved Gerard's laptop and external drives from his bedroom, finding terabytes of encrypted files. The password list was exactly where Stephanie said it would be, taped inside Gerard's badge wallet, hidden behind his identification. 37 videos, Joshua announced, scrolling through the files. Dating back 6 months. You've been recording Tyler's torture and selling it to pedophiles around the world. Gerard tried to speak, but Joshua held up a hand for silence. The files are tagged with prices. $40 for basic abuse videos. $200 for the ones where you use cigarettes. $500 for the ones where Tyler begs for his father. Joshua's voice remained calm, conversational, but something deadly had awakened behind his eyes. There are purchase records here, Gerard. Customer lists. You've made over $30,000 selling videos of my son's suffering. Josh, let me explain. The explanation is in the files. You're not just a child abuser. You're a child pornographer. You're not just corrupt. You're trafficking in torture. You've taken my son's pain and turned it into profit. Joshua closed the laptop and approached Gerard's chair. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me the names and addresses of every customer who bought those videos. You're going to provide access to every account, every payment method, every communication. And then we're going to discuss appropriate punishment. I'll give you everything. Please just... Oh, you'll give me everything anyway. The question is whether you give it willingly or whether I extract it piece by piece. Joshua opened his tactical kit, revealing an array of tools that had served him well in Syrian interrogations. Charles, you get to watch. Consider it a preview of your own sentencing hearing. For the next hour, Gerard Walsh experienced a fraction of the terror he'd inflicted on Tyler and the other children. Joshua was methodical, precise, never inflicting enough damage to cause unconsciousness or death, but ensuring every nerve ending communicated agony. By the end, Gerard had provided complete access to his networks, every customer, every payment, every communication with other predators. The scope was staggering. A network of over 200 pedophiles across 12 countries, all buying and selling images and videos of child abuse. This is bigger than just you, Gerard, Joshua observed, reviewing the data. You're part of an international trafficking ring. Tyler's torture was just one product in a catalog of horror. Gerard could barely speak through his pain, but he managed to whisper, "The FBI, they can use this. The FBI will get copies. But first, we finish your trial." Joshua turned to Charles Walsh, who'd been forced to watch his brother's interrogation. Charles Walsh, you enabled every crime your brother committed. You protected him, covered for him, allowed him to escalate. Without your protection, Gerard never could have hurt those children. I didn't know about the videos, but you knew about the abuse. Dr. Morris Carroll filed reports. Laura Fuentes reported suspected abuse. Other officers brought you evidence. You buried it all. Charles struggled against his restraints. I was protecting my family. You were protecting a monster. And now you face the same judgment. But before Joshua could continue, Tyler's voice came from the basement stairs. Dad! Joshua turned to see his son standing halfway down the steps, looking at the scene below. Tyler, I told you to stay upstairs. I know, but I heard everything. The videos, the money, what they did. Tyler's voice was steady, far too mature for an 8-year-old. Dad, there are other kids, aren't there? Other kids like me? Joshua nodded slowly. Yes, son, there are. And if you kill Gerard and Charles, the other kids don't get saved? Joshua studied his son, seeing intelligence and moral clarity that reminded him why he'd fought so hard to come home. That's right. The FBI can use this information to save other children, arrest other predators. but only if Gerard and Charles survived to testify. Tyler walked down the remaining steps and stood before Gerard Walsh, who looked up at him with fear and desperate hope. "Tyler," Gerard whispered. "Please, I'm sorry, I never meant." "You're not sorry," Tyler said quietly. "You're just afraid. You hurt me because you liked hurting me. You made videos because you liked making money from my pain." Gerard opened his mouth to protest, but Tyler continued. "But my dad taught me something. He taught me that sometimes you have to choose between revenge and justice. Revenge feels good, but justice helps other people." Tyler looked up at his father. "Dad, if we choose justice, will the other kids be safe?" "Some of them. The FBI can use this evidence to shut down the network, arrest hundreds of predators. It won't save everyone, but it will save some." Tyler nodded, then looked back at Gerard. "Gerard Walsh, I choose justice over revenge. But not because you deserve mercy. Because other kids deserve protection." He turned to his father. "Dad, I want them to live. I want them to spend the rest of their lives in prison, thinking about what they did, knowing they can never hurt anyone again. Death is too easy for monsters." Joshua felt something shift in his chest, pride, respect, and a recognition that his son had become stronger than his trauma. "Tyler, are you sure? After everything they put you through?" "I'm sure. But Dad..." "Yes. I want to be there when the FBI arrests them. I want them to see that they didn't break me. I want them to know they failed." Joshua smiled, not the predator's smile he'd worn for days, but the proud smile of a father whose son had chosen to become a protector instead of a victim. "Gerard Walsh, Charles Walsh," Joshua announced formally. "By the authority vested in me, by 8 years of military service and 18 months of fighting monsters, I sentence you to life in federal prison. You will cooperate fully with FBI investigations. You will testify against every predator in your network. You will spend every remaining day of your lives ensuring that other children are protected from people like you. And if you refuse, or if you recant your cooperation, or if anything happens to Tyler or any other witness..." Joshua's expression hardened. "I will find you. I will extract you from whatever prison holds you. And I will finish what we started tonight." Gerald and Charles both nodded frantically, understanding that their lives now depended on their continued cooperation. Joshua turned to Stephanie, who'd remained silent throughout the interrogation. "Stephanie Jordan Walsh, you enabled the abuse of my son and planned his murder. But Tyler has chosen justice over revenge, so you get the same choice Gerard and Charles got. What does that mean? It means you cooperate with the FBI. You testify against everyone involved. You spend the rest of your life making amends for what you allowed to happen." Stephanie nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Josh, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize to me. Apologize to Tyler. Spend the rest of your life apologizing to Tyler." Joshua gathered the evidence files and prepared to call Detective Brian Wilkins. The FBI would arrive within hours, and the largest child trafficking network in the region would be dismantled. But first, he had a phone call to make to David Hebert. "Dave, it's over. Send the FBI everything we discussed. Full cooperation, full disclosure." "Josh, what happened?" "Justice happened. The kind that saves other children instead of just satisfying revenge. And the targets? Alive. Captured. Ready to spend the rest of their lives making amends." "Jesus, Josh. I didn't think you had that kind of restraint in you." Joshua looked at Tyler, who was standing straight and strong despite everything he'd endured. "I learned it from my son. Turns out he's stronger than both of us." As sirens wailed in the distance, Joshua Jordan realized that the man who'd returned from Syria wasn't the same man who'd left for war. War had made him harder, more dangerous, more willing to cross lines. But his son had taught him something war couldn't. That true strength sometimes meant choosing the harder path, the one that served justice instead of just satisfying anger. The predators were caught. The network would be dismantled. Other children would be saved. And Tyler Jordan would grow up knowing that his father had chosen to be a protector instead of just a killer. Chapter 9. The Price of Becoming a Monster. 6 months later, Joshua Jordan sat in a federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., watching as the final defendants in United States versus Walsh were sentenced. The investigation had exposed a child trafficking network spanning 14 states and 7 countries, resulting in 247 arrests and the rescue of 89 children. Gerard Walsh received life without parole plus 400 years. Charles Walsh got life without parole plus 200 years. Stephanie Walsh received 25 years with possibility of parole after 15 in exchange for her cooperation and testimony against 43 other defendants. The courtroom was packed with FBI agents, prosecutors, and families of the rescued children. Tyler Jordan, now 9 years old and in therapy but showing remarkable resilience, sat beside his father throughout the sentencing hearings. Mr. Jordan, Judge Theodore Brewer addressed Joshua after the final sentence was read. The court recognizes that your unconventional methods led to the largest child trafficking bust in FBI history. However, I'm required to ask, do you have any regrets about the way you handled this situation? Joshua stood, considering his answer carefully. In the months since that night, he'd undergone extensive psychological evaluation, debriefing sessions with military intelligence, and countless interviews with federal prosecutors. The consensus was that his actions, while legally questionable, had ultimately served justice. Your Honor, I regret that it took 18 months for my son to get protection. I regret that 7 other children suffered while the system failed them. I regret that 247 predators were allowed to operate freely because corrupt officials protected them. And your methods? The interrogation, the psychological warfare, I regret that those methods were necessary. But I don't regret using them to save children. Judge Brewer nodded slowly. Mr. Jordan, this court recognizes that you served your country with distinction, that you acted to protect your son and other victims, and that your actions led to justice for hundreds of children. However, you also crossed legal boundaries that cannot be ignored. Joshua straightened, prepared for whatever sentence might come. Therefore, this court sentences you to 500 hours of community service to be served by training FBI agents in tactical interrogation and counterterrorism techniques. You will also undergo continued psychological counseling and remain available for consultation on similar cases. The courtroom erupted in applause. It was essentially a slap on the wrist, recognition that Joshua's methods had served the greater good, even if they couldn't be officially endorsed. Outside the courthouse, Tyler walked beside his father toward their car. Dad, are you okay with the sentence? I'm fine with it, son. How are you doing? Tyler considered the question seriously. At 9, he was already showing signs of the intelligence and moral clarity that had helped him survive his ordeal. I'm glad they're in prison. I'm glad other kids are safe. But, Dad, what is it? Sometimes I have nightmares. Not about Gerard or what he did to me. I have nightmares about what you became to save me. Joshua stopped walking and knelt to Tyler's eye level. What do you mean? In Syria, you killed people. When you came home, you were ready to kill more people. You became something scary to protect me. Tyler's eyes were serious, concerned. I love that you saved me, Dad, but I don't want you to stay scary forever. Joshua felt something crack in his chest, the last piece of the killer he'd become. His son wasn't just worried about himself. He was worried about his father's soul. Tyler, do you remember what I taught you about hunting? You said sometimes predators have to be eliminated to protect the innocent. That's right. But I also taught you that after the hunt, you clean your weapons, put them away, and go back to being a protector instead of a killer. Tyler nodded slowly. Are you ready to put your weapons away, Dad? Joshua smiled. The warm smile of a father, not the cold smile of a predator. Yes, son, I think I am. As they drove home, Joshua reflected on the cost of justice. He'd returned from Syria as a weapon, a killer trained to eliminate threats without hesitation or remorse. That weapon had been necessary to save Tyler and the other children. But Tyler was right. Staying a weapon would only create new victims, including themselves. His phone buzzed with a text from David A. Bear. New assignment, if you want it. FBI Task Force on International Trafficking. Clean work, legal methods, chance to save more kids. Interested, Joshua looked at Tyler in the rearview mirror. His son was reading a book about marine biology, having decided he wanted to be a scientist who studied ocean life. Normal interests for a normal kid, or as normal as Tyler could be after everything he'd experienced. Dad, Tyler looked up from his book. If you work with the FBI, will you still be able to come to my school events and help with homework? Every single one. And you won't disappear for 18 months again? Never again. I promise. Tyler smiled. Then I think you should help save more kids. But as dad, not as the other thing. Joshua texted David back, interested, but only if I can work domestic cases and be home every night. The response came immediately. Deal? Welcome to the Child Protection Task Force, Agent Jordan. 3 years later, Joshua Jordan had helped rescue 47 more children and dismantle 12 trafficking networks, all without firing a shot or crossing legal boundaries. He coached Tyler's Little League team, attended every school play, and helped with science fair projects about marine ecosystems. Tyler was 12 now, healthy and happy, with only occasional nightmares about his ordeal. He'd started a program at his school to teach other kids about recognizing and reporting abuse, turning his trauma into protection for others. Stephanie had been released on parole after serving her full 15 years. She contacted Joshua once, asking if she could see Tyler. Joshua had given Tyler the choice. Dad, I don't hate her anymore, Tyler had said, but I don't want to see her either. She made her choice when she let Gerard hurt me. I've made my choice to move forward without her. Joshua had respected that decision, just as he'd respected Tyler's choice to forgive rather than seek revenge. Gerard and Charles Walsh were both serving their sentences in federal maximum security prison. Gerard had been attacked twice by other inmates who discovered his crimes. Charles had attempted suicide once and spent 6 months in psychiatric care. Both men would die in prison, forgotten and unmourned. The cost of becoming a monster to fight monsters was high. Joshua still sometimes woke up in cold sweats, still sometimes saw the world through a sniper's scope, still sometimes felt the urge to solve problems with violence. But Tyler had taught him that monsters could choose to become protectors instead. On Tyler's 13th birthday, father and son went fishing at the lake where Joshua had first taught Tyler to hunt. Dad, do you ever regret coming home from Syria? Never. Why do you ask? Because you were a different person there. A person who didn't have to worry about anyone else, who could just focus on the mission. Joshua cast his line into the calm water. Tyler, in Syria, I was a weapon. Weapons are tools. They serve a purpose, but they don't have meaning. When I came home and found out what happened to you, I stayed a weapon because I thought that's what you needed. But it wasn't. No, what you needed was a father. What other kids need are protectors. Weapons destroy things. Fathers and protectors build things, save things, make things better. Tyler nodded thoughtfully. So you chose to stop being a weapon? I chose to be your father instead. Everything else is just a job. As the sun set over the lake, Tyler caught his first base, a moment of pure joy and normal childhood that Gerard Walsh had tried to steal but failed to destroy. Joshua Jordan had returned from war as a killer, become a monster to fight monsters, and finally chosen to become a protector of innocence. The price had been high, but the reward, watching his son grow up strong, safe, and unbroken, made every cost worthwhile. Some battles were won with bullets and blood. Others were won by choosing mercy over revenge, justice over retribution, and love over hate. Tyler Jordan had taught his father the difference, and in doing so, had saved them both.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.